a lot of thought. And yeah, thank you for having me back here.
Man, you know we doing this every second.
Oh yeah.
Every second Tuesday of the month, so we definitely gonna keep this going.
Yeah. So, okay, so where are we starting with? Okay, well, I'm just launched a website called Justice for Hammarskjold.
Yes.
Excited about that. That's a jump. So, okay, so let's get to the Malcolm X book club. One of the things that's really interesting about Malcolm X, and we talked about this last time, is what a skilled politician he was. Yeah. How many different, that he was able to reach across divides and that he had connections in so many communities. Okay, so, let me read a little bit from the book about that.
Yes.
Okay. Although most of Malcolm's public lectures were now aimed at university audiences, he also tried to establish an interfaith dialogue between the nation and African American Christians. As the nation continued to deny the necessity of politics, it became even more important to establish its legitimacy within the black community as a real religious organization. Acknowledgement by important Christian groups brought it closer to that goal. So, okay, so in his, Elijah Muhammad did not believe in politics. He explained that the Nation of Islam did not believe in politics because no president that has ever sat in the White House has ever kept his promises to black people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No disagreement. Instead, he advised we must turn toward the God of our forefathers. But one of the problems with that, or there's many problems, was that it's kind of Calvinist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
right.
Yeah, and so it's this idea of telling people like, oh, just wait, you'll be rewarded later. So we're not, and so that just keeps people down, and it was one of the hypocrisy. Elijah Muhammad was getting rich all along with this, and so. Oh, okay. So, in California, for instance, students at UC Berkeley were scheduled to hear Malcolm, but the university administration banned the lecture, which had to be relocated to the local YMCA.
Wow.
Yeah. And, God, that's a whole story within that. Like, who was at that YMCA? Like, those were connections.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm kind of learning through you, so that's why I'm being quiet. I don't want to say the wrong stuff.
No, what do you mean? What could you say that would be wrong?
I don't know. When you don't really, what I'm saying? You're the historian. You kind of know more than what I know. And so
yeah, but
I don't know too much about certain things about that. I know about Malcolm X. I know what he did, and I know little tidbits here and there.
Yeah.
But you know.
You do. But you also bring, we've been talking about this off and on, so let me, turn, how has the conversations we've been having for a while made you think about, possibly, your own family's archives?
Yes, it does. It actually did. It actually did.
Okay.
It may be, my mom is from Florida. So my mom is, pretty much almost 70 years old, so people from Florida, they know a little more. They seem like they were a little more into the history part. Like my dad's from California. He's not. I know I hate to say it like that. They're not. Yeah. We're not really as in tuned as I think as they are.
Yeah. different everywhere. You know, and for the most part, I just see positivity. I see interest. I'm a member of the Gay Lesbian, the LGBT Museum in San Francisco. With my friends from, I know I don't sound that smart right now. There's a lot of interest in local history. I'm going to be bringing a documentary to Vallejo on August 18th to the Vallejo Naval and Historical Museum. So the other day I went into an old club here in Vallejo and was going through financial records and stuff.
Nice.
So we just find these stories everywhere. So can we pull up? Should we pull up some of the pictures? We don't need to.
No. You ready to pull up the pictures?
No. We should. No, I still feel like we should try and get going. Talking more. Wow. What is it? Here. Okay. So, I think that Malcolm X was more socially liberal than he's given credit for. He was friends with James Baldwin, who was African American gay writer. And he was friendly with Bayard Rustin.
Yeah.
I think that Malcolm believed in respect and privacy, and seriously, I think if anybody had said anything to them about being gay, he just may very well have shut them.
Yeah, you would have went. You think he would have went off?
No, I think he would have shut them up. I think he believed in dignity and privacy, and he would have considered, and he was a very serious sort of person. I think he would have considered that just gossip and beneath him.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I can see that.
But God, again, I mean, one of the things about history is you just see how much more liberal things were in some areas.
True.
Yeah. One of my issues as a historian is that I disagree with saying that people were closeted unless they deliberately hid their homosexuality. I think somebody saying you're closeted, I think it's insulting. And it's saying that you aren't who you say you are. And particularly when somebody's dead, that's the wrong thing to do. I mean,
right.
I have had people say things to me like, "Oh, I didn't know you were gay. We didn't know you were out." It's like, well, because you never had a conversation with me where this came up. And somebody once said that I was discreet about my lifestyle, and I was like, no.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be honest with that. Speaking of that, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I really didn't know until you told me. Until you came here, the whole time I met you, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You never came with a girlfriend, or you never had a friend that was like a girl. Yeah. Well,
it's just all the more reason not to label people.
Right.
And I mean it we can identify people, because it's just, I hate people who say I don't like labels, I don't like to be defined. That's just how the human mind works. Okay, that's just cognitive. But
right.
So after I die, people better not say, I'd be furious. People better not say I was closeted because I didn't have a girlfriend. And I don't know. I think that there's belief that in the past that there was more reticence and boundaries, which they wouldn't have called it that. And so a lot of stuff would have been known and not spoken about.
Right.
So, wow, we're really jumping away a little bit from the Malcolm X book club. But we're not. I mean, one of my big interests is so much Bayard Rustin, and so I make that jump. But okay, well, how should we? Okay, so here's some other things that are interesting, and one of my just big things, my big beliefs, I mean, as a historian and as everything, is like, read what everybody has to say. All information is useful. Even wrong information is useful.
Right.
Okay, yeah. If somebody's lying to you, there's a reason.
Right.
So I've read, there's a lot of criticism of, I've read the criticism of Manning Marable's book, and I've read his daughter's memoir. His daughters were upset about some of the things that were said in the book. And one of the things I find so fascinating, Malcolm X had 6 daughters, and his wife, Dr. Betty Shabazz, was pregnant with twins when he was killed. Things I find so interesting. At the time she was Betty X, so she moved to the suburbs after Malcolm X was assassinated, and
oops, accident. Just I don't know why I did that. Accident.
And she wanted her girls to have just a quiet life removed from everything. So, okay, it's the 60s and the 70s, they have the experience of being African American children growing up in the suburbs.
Right.
Yeah. But they did not have the additional burden as children of being Malcolm X's daughters growing up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he kind of pretty much hit them. They were shelved. Oh,
no, I'm sorry. After Malcolm X was assassinated.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, no, I mean, they weren't, God, I mean, who even picked, I mean, they weren't hidden. I mean, but they just, they were in contact with people.
Like how Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Similar, we know that he had kids, but we didn't really start learning about them until they were old enough to kind of branch out.
Yeah. And, God, back in those days, it was just, she didn't have to, go as far,
Right.
She just...
Because we didn't have internet, and, you didn't have to worry about all that stuff. So, you like you said, you put them in the country somewhere, let them live there. Yeah. I mean, no one really know about them too much anyway.
Yeah, and that's another really interesting thing about history now, which makes being a historian and archivist now so interesting, is the rights to material, the rights to privacy. And that's just huge, and I think it's just changing constantly. But I mean, I just feel very strongly that in the era where people expected privacy, they should have it. Right. I don't believe in publishing everything.
So, as a historian, do you tend to keep stuff secret to yourself that you kind of just will never really discuss? Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh, as a historian, what I want to find out stuff that hasn't been found out, and so my project, Justice for Dag Hammarskjold, which is it needs its own podcast. It's a legal issue. It's a social justice and human rights issue, but having to do with a possible assassination. But so I research everything that hasn't been already researched.
Right.
And it does have to do with identity too. This was a plane crash that happened in 1961 in what is now Zambia, and at the time was Rhodesia. Rhodesia was basically apartheid.
Right.
Yeah, and so there was a plane crash, and there was one black member of the crew who wasn't named. In the Rhodesians, they didn't put a name on the body bag because of their racism. But the United Nations did not treat Sergei Baral that way.
Gotcha. Nice. Hey.
Yeah.
so that's just so important. There was a woman on the plane that, so just going back and finding out people's histories, just anything that hasn't been found. But no, I mean, one of the things, I don't know, I mean, if I found something I thought was private, like, no, I would never want to release it or anything, but that's not too likely.
Gotcha. All right. So you want to get into some music? I think you have some music for us.
Yeah, this is
by Emmanuel Jal, who is a South Sudanese rapper.